The storm had not yet broken that morning, but everyone inside Halden Corporate Tower felt it coming. Even the marble floors seemed to hold their breath the moment Seraphine Halden, the unshakable, feared billionaire CEO, stepped out of her private elevator with her 2 daughters clinging to her legs, both girls red-eyed, trembling, and refusing to let go. For months, rumors had spread like wildfire. No nanny lasted more than a day, no therapist more than a week, and no caregiver at all could handle the 7-year-old twins who had stopped speaking after a tragedy no one dared bring up. The board whispered. Employees stared. Seraphine looked like a woman silently crumbling under the weight of a life she couldn't control. And that was the morning everything changed, because at the exact moment her daughters collapsed into tears on the polished floor, a janitor named Rowan Ferris froze mid-mop and, for reasons he couldn't explain, walked toward them. If you believe in kindness, second chances, or that one moment can change a life, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Midnight Reports. Your support keeps these stories alive. Rowan wasn't the kind of man anyone noticed. He kept his head down, pushed his cleaning cart down empty hallways, and spoke with the quiet carefulness of someone who didn't want to take up too much space. He was a single father who worked double shifts to care for his 10-year-old son, Caden, and he'd learned long ago that the world rarely slowed down long enough to notice people like him. But when he saw the twins, Ariel and Leora, curled into themselves in a terrified knot, something inside him cracked open. Their shaking reminded him too much of the way Caden clung to him the year his wife died in a hospital room painted too white for comfort. Rowan set down his mop, knelt softly on the cold floor, and offered the girls the same calming trick his son once needed, the gentle rhythm of slow, even breaths that matched the tapping of his fingers on the ground. It wasn't magic, but it was human. And to everyone's shock, the twins slowly lifted their heads, watching him through wet lashes, their sobs growing quieter as the world around them blurred into nothing but the steady reassurance of a stranger's presence. Seraphine stared as if witnessing a miracle she didn't believe she deserved. For months she had watched her daughters slip into a closed, silent world after losing their father in a sudden accident that shattered their sense of safety. Every expert she brought in left defeated. But now, a janitor, a man with no training, no credentials, had calmed them in under a minute. It felt impossible, yet there it was. When the girl slowly let go of her legs and moved toward Rowan like shy shadows learning how to follow the light, Seraphine's throat tightened with a mix of disbelief, hope, and guilt that gnawed at her every waking moment. Word spread quickly across the building, and before Rowan could even process what had happened, Seraphine requested, no, pleaded, for him to help her daughters again. She didn't care about titles or positions or what anyone thought. She only cared that someone, anyone, had reached the twins when the entire world had failed to. Rowan wanted to refuse, he had another job waiting, his son at home, and exhaustion always tugged at him like an anchor. But when Ariel gently slipped her small hand into his and Leora leaned against his arm with the fragile trust of a wounded animal, he knew he couldn't walk away. What started as a single moment turned into days of small, tender breakthroughs. Rowan arrived early before the office filled with the usual rush of ambition and anxiety, and the girls waited for him with hopeful anticipation. They followed him as he worked, watching him sweep and dust and change light bulbs with the fascinated devotion only children who crave safety can give. He never pushed them to speak. He never asked what happened. He simply treated them with the quiet, patient consistency that had once saved his son. And slowly, like flowers learning sunlight again, the twins began to open. Ariel's first smile came one afternoon while Rowan repaired a broken music box he found in the hallway, one the girls had thrown during a meltdown days earlier. When it played again, its soft notes filling the empty corridor, her lips lifted in a shy, uncertain arc that made Seraphine press her hand to her heart. Leora's first sound came a week later, a tiny hum as Rowan taught them how to fold paper cranes the way his son loved to do when he couldn't sleep. Those little cranes began appearing everywhere, in Rowan's cart, on Seraphine's desk, tucked carefully into drawers as if the girls were leaving silent messages of growing trust. Seraphine watched it all from a distance at first, afraid of breaking whatever magic was happening. She saw Rowan treat her daughters not as the billionaire's troubled children, but as 2 wounded souls deserving gentleness. And each day she found herself lingering a little longer, drawn to the calming steadiness she hadn't felt since before her world fell apart. Her nights were still filled with board meetings, investor threats, and the constant fear of losing everything she built, but in the mornings she saw her daughters laughing with a janitor, and somehow, it mattered more than any corporate crisis. The turning point came one bright afternoon when Rowan brought Caden to the office after school. The twins, usually shy around strangers, ran toward him with excitement, tugging his sleeves, eager to show him the cranes they had folded. Caden understood immediately. He had lived that silence once too. Without hesitation, he taught them how to make stars and boats and little flying birds. And for the first time in nearly a year, the twins whispered a word, again. Seraphine broke down quietly behind a glass doorway, overwhelmed by gratitude so heavy it nearly brought her to her knees. It was then she realized something that both frightened and freed her. Healing didn't always come from experts or expensive solutions. Sometimes it came from people who had walked through pain themselves and learned how to carry others through it. Rowan wasn't just helping her daughters, he was helping her breathe again, helping her remember she was still a mother before she was a CEO. As the days turned to weeks, Seraphine found reasons to join them, helping fold cranes, sharing quiet lunches, watching Rowan with a warmth she hadn't allowed herself to feel in years. Their connection grew not from romance but from shared loss, shared resilience, and shared hope that life could still be kind. And the twins? They began speaking more, laughing louder, and playing freely again. They clung to Rowan like a second father, and Seraphine never tried to hide how deeply grateful she was. One evening, as Rowan prepared to leave, Ariel handed him a paper crane carefully colored in shades of gold. On its wing, in shaky handwriting, she had written the word family.